Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Prog Report interview. I am pleased to welcome back to the show from Big Wreck, Mr. Ian Thornley. How you doing, sir?
I'm great, man. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Good to talk to you again. Been lucky to have you on the show a few times. Last time was about a year and a half ago for Pages,
Hmm.
which is crazy that was a year and a half ago. I remember that you were in the process of doing like the EP thing again, right? And there was going to be another series sort of soon after that one, and then it blew up into a full album. So what happened there?
Um, I think I think I got outvoted essentially. My idea for doing the EPs, I think it's a sound idea. I think it makes sense to me, but I'm not a business-minded person. I don't know what makes more of a splash in public arena. I frankly don't really care. I just like for me it was. If we're putting out records that I, in my opinion, don't have any filler, we never record like, okay, this is our single, and then we record everything else. Like I record everything with the same amount of focus. And I'm like, well, asking, a listener to focus that hard for however many minutes a 12 to 16 song album would be, I think that's a big ask. My idea was just to give them, if we just give them EPs, like a little bite size offerings, then that might. But anyway, and then I was like, okay, well, in the sevens we got screwed because of COVID, so that. Yeah. But
Right.
maybe it's not as good an idea as I think it is. So yeah, we changed management, thankfully, and we're with Dave Morris now, and he's wonderful. And he was just like, no, 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 let's just do a full length record. He came on after we released Pages. Um, and yeah, I mean, we're sitting on a lot of content as it is. I say content now that I've changed my word from music to content. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, like you were saying, all the stuff on the rest of the story was recorded at the same time as Pages, which is however long ago it was, and I'm not somebody who sits around. I've been writing a lot, so I've got a lot. We're sitting on a lot of new music now, which to me is new, but the rest of the story is like still not even out. So it's a bit of a head trip that way. But yeah, I'm excited for people to hear it, and we'll see if if people are able to sink their teeth into whatever it is, 11 or 12 songs, if they, if that's not too much for folks. But I think, it's like when I was a kid, it was fine to take down a whole record, but um,
Yeah, I mean it's not a super long album. It's not like 80 minutes or anything crazy. It's 11 songs and
yeah,
um they breeze by pretty quickly. I mean, look, I'll just say this as a fan because I'm a big fan of what you guys do and I
thanks.
always have been. I think it's just to me you guys are one of the best bands out there easily. I
Well,
just
thanks, man.
love the music, man.
Thank you.
So as a fan, it's like, oh, a full album is absolutely great. Like the more the better, right? So I don't know, but nowadays you're right. It's tricky. Who knows what people are listening to and when they're listening to it and all
I
of that.
don't know.
So
I
yeah,
clearly don't know. So I'm just going to stick to what I do.
right.
Just make the
Yeah.
music, and then, people can do with it what they.
Yeah, I think that's great. So, what's interesting is, I mean, you said this material was sort of put together or written or on the same period as Pages, but Pages to me, it does have a different vibe and sound to it in a weird way. And I don't know if maybe that happened later in production or that kind of thing. I mean,
They
Pages
were
has a
mixed.
lot of like
Yeah, they were
80s
mixed.
kind of influence to it,
Yeah,
right?
and
And some of that
I
kind
think
of stuff.
that was by design, and I think that was one of Nick's because some of the sort of keyboardy stuff like in Fairlight and um, there was a lot of back and forth of to which of the 17 or 18 songs which were going to go on Pages one, and then I mapped out Pages two and Pages three, and
Oh, okay.
before we bailed on the idea. Uh, but yeah, I mean, any differences in sonic wise, I mean, they were mixed at a different time. They weren't all mixed at the same time. They're still mixed by Eric Ratz, but he did them, I think, a couple of months after Pages. So maybe, and we were A Bing. while we get mixes for the rest of the story, we'd A/B it to pages and make sure that it was.
Right.
But I think stylistically, if you were to look at the whole thing, which I think at the end of all this, it'd be nice to release the whole story and add another bunch of goodies and bits that I've got lying around here
That
I
would be cool. Yeah,
might
yeah.
here. But I think like as a whole, I think um, there's so much variety from song to song that you're going to paint a different picture if you just take 5 or 6 of them. You can, it'll have a different flavor than if you group 10 or 11 of them together. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. I mean, if
if
you
you
took
say
the
if you
pages,
bookend pages
yeah.
with two sort of long epic things, it's going to have a real sort of a different feel than just we're just going to do 4-minute bangers and then put a long one at the end or whatever, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
usually my go-to.
yeah.
But yeah, I I kind of love it all, and when I think about it, I listen with the same set of ears on because they were sort of written and cultivated and worked on and recorded at the same time, and that my memories sort of in my mind and musically are tied in with that time.
Yeah.
So they're all
Uh,
same. They came in on the same bus.
yeah, I think it would be interesting a sequencing if you mixed all of them up. Then what that would sort of sound like, because then it would really be sort of trippy.
Yeah,
Kind of be
yeah,
a
that's
little
the
bit different.
idea. That's
Yeah.
the idea. And it's not like it's a concept record or anything. It's not like there's a through line. I think some of the themes are similar to each other um, within some of the songs, but there's by no means an overall overarching concept where there has to be a beginning, middle, and an end to all these songs together. I kind of look at songs individually that way.
What I think is amazing with how your songwriting has developed over, the last 15, 20 years or whatever, um, there's still new things you're throwing into it, which I find fascinating and where that sort of come from. Like Holy Roller is something I've never heard you guys do, and
Yeah,
that's awesome. I mean, it's a total just metal kind of, shred
yeah.
song. So where did you decide to do something like that?
I don't really know where it came from. I mean, the influence is obvious, and I like it that way. I've always liked to sort of wear the influence on my sleeves. It's not like I'm trying to hide that it's sort of a tip of the hat to Van Halen or that era of, um, you know, rock and roll or, but yeah, and I've been asked about it quite a bit. Like, so you grew up listening to that stuff? I'm like, no, not at all. Bruce Coburn was my guitar hero when I was starting out, like an acoustic finger style. That was sort of my entry into playing guitar. So I just sort of missed that train in the '80s. I was focused on keyboards and piano and synth stuff, and then when I got into
Hmm.
guitar, I was more attracted to fingerstyle acoustic and um, like I said, Bruce Coburn was my first sort of guitar hero, and I started learning everything that I could from him. And then it was Leo Kottke and guys like that, Pierre Benzoussan and Michael Hedges for some of the trippier tunings and all this stuff that before I went to college that I was really into. Um, yeah, I didn't get exposed to a lot of it, and when I did, it took a while for someone to explain to me how to listen to heavier music, and it was Brian who sort of helped me and showed me the light, you know. Um, but as a guitarist, if I'm not writing or if I just feel like and everything that's coming out is not fresh, it's stale, and I'm not liking it, so I'll just get off that and I'll either work on a piece of music that I'm working on or I'll just sit and practice. And when it comes to sitting and practicing and just sort of learning licks and sort of mapping things out, that whole era for electric guitar was, that was a dawning of like Eddie started this tidal wave of
Yeah.
all these other guitar players who started doing all this crazy shit. And a lot of it gets passed off. I think it's great. And when it's done right, I think there's an element of fun to it. Not just wow, that was impressive, but there's a cheek and an element of fun. Uh, those guys were always smiling back then. And that's great.
Yeah.
And I think what we were saying was like, can we get away with this? Can we fucking do this? And what we kept saying is like, dude, when did it become, not cool to have fun playing rock and roll? Like, it's okay to make it fun. So yeah, I think Holy Roller was. I mean, I was a little hesitant to send it off to the guys, but I think within the first 10 seconds of me putting it in a message and sending it off to Dave and say, like, they both came back before they'd even heard the whole thing. Like, yes, let's do this. Push it further down the track. I love it because they could see exactly where I was going. It's like, well,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm a huge fan of surprises, and I thought, what a great surprise if we came out with a spandex, hairspray rocker.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great when a band, so there's always this middle ground, right? Like some bands say we have to do something completely different every time, and it's super like a whole completely different sound.
Mm,
And then other people try to recreate the same record all the time, maybe like an AC/DC or whatever, and that works for them.
no,
And then, but I always found it very cool if you had a band that does what they do, and they don't neglect what the fans enjoy and what they're good at and all that kind of stuff, but they throw in a few little, hey, we're trying this here and there,
no.
you know. And I always think that's a really cool way to do it, and it sort of pleases everybody. I think fans are more forgiving that way too, you know.
Yeah, I would
Um,
hope. You know.
uh, also, so there's a bunch of songs in this that I want to talk about, but Around, I cannot get that song out of my head.
Nice. Okay.
That's maybe my favorite one today. I don't know,
Oh,
but
thank you.
you know, that to me is the chorus, the way you have the harmonies in there. That's a very perfectly Big Wreck tuned track. I mean, talk about writing that song, and how does a song like that come together for you?
Very quickly. I just had that. Just I don't know where it came from. I think I was doing something else, and then it was just those three chords with "I just wanna be around," and I was like, "Huh, that sounds like a Stones tune." So my original demo was very Stonesy, like really towel dry drums, you know, loosey goosey guitars, acoustics down the middle, and a dry vocal. Um, and I love that demo. I thought it was great. And I think Nick was into it too. But Nick was like, what we should try with this is go full production, like full pop.
Yeah.
Use tricks, and the engineer on the session was Chris Holmes of Hollywood. And he knows all of them tricks. He worked down in LA for like 10 years in one of the big sort of pop writing houses. So he knows all those, all the tricks and like what would they do here? And he said, well, it would be some sort of keyboard thing, and we'd use some. And I'm like, okay, but what if I just did it with a guitar and we made a couple guitar noises and kind of use those as samples and sort of paste them through
Mm.
this. So there was like some through lines, and I think looking at it through a different lens like that, like what if we did full on pop production, if you will. I think all of us sort of, okay, well, there's not going to be a lot of flashy drum fills and bass fills and guitar fills. It's going to be, let's just keep the parts simple and let the song breathe, and then we'll season it with different noises. Um, and because I think a song like that it can easily stand on its own with an acoustic guitar and a voice and be a pretty little song, like a campfire song. But when you dress it up, you can have it be whatever you want. So yeah, I love it too. And then once Ratsy got a hold of it, like once Eric Ratz mixed it and he did this sort of the lo-fi vocal in the verse and then
Right.
the boom for the chorus, I was like, oh, this is, yeah. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I
it
got
really
it.
works.
I'm in. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, let's do it. Let's produce this. So yeah, that's
Yeah, I love it, man. That's a great tune. The whole, even the whole, I mean, the record starts off killer, but the whole second half, I mean, is just really great. I mean, there's some real good rockers there. Dogs with a Gun,
Oh,
Escaping in Place. Those are killer. I mean, just
thanks, man.
really good riffs and stuff. Are you always just putzing around with riffs? I mean, how many are you writing
Yeah,
all the time, and how do you
I
decide what works?
hundreds, if I'm honest. There's yeah, if I'm lucky, I mean it, and I always say it goes like up and down. It goes in waves, and sometimes that I can't get to my phone or to my rig fast enough to capture ideas that are flowing out. And then other times it's like, no, that sucks, no, that sucks. And I'll go to my phone or I'll go to my hard drive and start looking through things that I've sort of half finished and see, and then I'll just play it and see if it moves me, if it does anything. And I'll be like, oh, there's something here. Okay, let's finish this. Whatever it is, like you can always sort of trick yourself into being inspired. But as far as writing goes, I've never been one of the. I don't get writer's block, as it were, and I don't have. I've heard some writers say, like, I think you're only allowed to have so many. There's a finite amount of good ideas, and then the rest of it you're just repeating yourself. I don't agree with that either. I think you put the work in. You roll up your sleeves, and if you're not fucking instantly inspired and like, well, where's the muse? Where's the magic? You work for it. You go look for it. Um, and invariably, like touch wood, I always seem to stumble into something, and it's just about putting yourself there. It's like going to the gym. Like I hate going to the gym. I don't want to go. Don't feel like it's not making a difference. And then once you get there, you start getting into it, and like you try to better whatever you did the day before or the week before. It's that
Yeah.
kind of thing where it's just putting in the work. And I don't know. I mean, I probably there's probably some kind of OCD or something going on when it comes to um, the search for the right song, the right idea. My wife keeps telling me I've got ADHD. I'm like, no, 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 no. She's like, dude, it's undiagnosed. I'm like, no, no way. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Um, yeah, I do. There's a big part of me that just kind of looks at it like it's my job. Um, I love it. My hobby. It's also my hobby. You know, um, so yeah, there's always riffs and ideas, and at any moment, um, one of them can turn into a song that'll be a fully finished song, or one can just pop into my head and land in my lap, and I'll get it on my phone and then put it in and start messing with it later.
So what happens now when you've worked on this album? It's set, right, and it's coming out soon, and then you're going to have that whole sort of run. You're promoting this, maybe some shows. What happens if you have this amazing idea today, right? And so now that's stuck, right, for
Yeah.
a year maybe or something, right? So
Yeah.
what do you do there? And are you already put? Then
It's
you're like, okay, well, I got another album coming. Let me start
yeah.
working on it.
Yeah. I mean, yes and yes. Uh, I think it's sort of some of it is time, like how much time I have. If I have the time, then I'll sketch it out and sort of start pushing it down the field and see what I can make of it. And then oftentimes it's just sitting there. Like that happens a lot. Um, if it's fully done, it'll just be sitting in a hard drive, and it's almost really nice to not hear it for a year. And then you go back and it's like, oh, remember this? This was
Okay,
good.
yeah, yeah.
And you all of a sudden have a year's worth of perspective to go back and look at it and say, well, here's what we should do there. And I mean, it doesn't have to be a year. There's riffs and ideas that have been around for 20 years that it's if they hit you at the right time, they can be finished. That's when things happen. So I don't like to timestamp stuff so much. I think good is
Interesting,
good.
yeah.
I don't really think that it should have a date.
What
Lyrics
about
lyrics move and grow, and they change. But riffs and musical ideas, I don't really think they have a date. You know,
what about working with your producer, Nick Raskulinitz, I think, right? That's how you say his name.
That's things. Yeah.
Uh, do you enjoy working with a producer? Do you think that helps you focus your ideas?
Um. Yeah. I think that's probably a good way to put it. Nick's great. I mean, he comes from a real sort of rock background and a real sort of even heavier, like a metal kind of like he's really got that in his blood. But I mean, it's not like he doesn't appreciate a great, you know, um, acoustic song with a great melody. Like he just loves music, but I think his roots are more in that thing. So he does have a different perspective than I do. And I think a lot of it, finding someone, and Rats is the same way. Finding someone I can work with it's trust based. Like I trust his opinion and his call. Um, and sometimes I still think he's wrong about something, or he'll think I'm wrong about something, or go, thank God he was right about that. It's one of those things, but it's like to be able to have the trust in somebody that they can say something and you're not going to be like, well, he only said that because, it's like we're kind of buddies first, and then it's like, okay, well, let's get down to brass tacks here. But I mean, it really is, once you get in the room with them and like in pre-production, that's to me the real benefit, and where Nick's real juice comes from. Um, is just, he's like a member of the band, and just he'll have an idea like, okay, what if we started with that kind of thing, arrangements, and he's great with outside the box ideas that perhaps I haven't thought of, because I usually put the
Yeah.
songs under a pretty big rolling pin and try to wring out all the possibilities of what, especially if something's not quite there, why? I want to know why, and I'm really putting it under the pen, and he can come up with something that's wildly outside of anything I would ever think of. And I'll be like, yes, I know exactly what you mean. Shit, that was it all along. And then I'll just quickly do it and then send that off. And everyone's like, yes. I'm like, dude, it's the same song. I just started with a verse, or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he's really got a great skill that way.
Yeah, he just did an interview with Rick Beato, I think, right? That just came out that I have to watch. It's been on my to-do
I saw
list.
that. I posted about it.
Yeah, that's
And
very cool.
they
Rick is
mentioned me.
great.
I was like, oh,
Very cool. That's awesome. You guys, you have some shows coming up in the States anytime soon again for this record, you
um,
think?
no, I don't think so. No, there's nothing on the books yet. We'll see what happens. I know we have a couple like one-offs around here for the rest of the year, and then early next year we're going on tour with Live across
Right, I
Canada.
saw those. Yeah.
But I think beyond that, things are starting to get cemented now for summer and beyond. So we'll see what happens. I don't know, but I don't think we have any US stuff in the books yet.
All right, well, we got to make that happen. The last I saw a show a while back in New York that was just awesome.
Oh, cool.
It was very cool to see that. And you recently toured. You did some anniversary shows for the Thornley record
Yeah,
a
we
while
did a
back.
couple. Yeah, we did a couple
What
one-offs.
was that? What was revisiting that like? That must have been a lot of fun.
You know what? I was surprised. I've always kind of, I think it's probably unfairly. I've been sort of unfairly hard on that time, and those songs have been unfairly because going back and playing them, and I was like, okay, this is cool, and being in the room with the guys, sort of batting them around and putting them together. I was like, wow, this really feels great. And then doing it as a show, and with, I mean, when an audience is there, everything does get heightened.
Yeah.
And I found it a very emotional. Like I did not expect it to sort of grab me. Yeah, and that's usually when you get hit, when you're not expecting it. But yeah, they were great, and I don't want to use the word cathartic because it's just rock and roll. But there was a lot of great moments. I think we did one in Toronto and one in Vancouver, and then we did a couple of sort of casino type shows where we did a Thornley and Big Wreck set, which I really enjoyed. I thought that was great. Sort of
Yeah.
marathoning it. It was great.
Well, "Come Again" is that's just a great song still to this day. That's just a monster hit. Well, cool, man. Always great to talk to you. The new album, the rest of the story. comes out November, no, October 24th, I believe.
Yes.
That's the date I had. And man, it's another just home run. I have yet to find a bad song in the stuff that you're doing. So, and I'm grateful that you keep putting out amazing music.
Oh,
It's
thanks,
just
man.
awesome.
That's why I do it. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Be well. Talk to you soon.
All right, buddy.
Bye.
Ciao.
Hey, thanks for checking out the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on all our socials and progreport.com, and we'll see you all again real soon. Thanks.